Are you one of those teachers who's a little more introverted or serious and maybe not necessarily labeled as the fun teacher? Do you wish that your students were more engaged and that you had more buy-in from them without having to put on a dog and pony show? Then you're in the right place, because today I'm discussing 4 tricks to get a more positive classroom culture without having to be one of those bubbly, extroverted teachers. And be sure to stay until the end, because there are some drawbacks. Surprising drawbacks if you end up implementing these successfully and end up with that amazing classroom culture that pretty much every teacher wants. So the first step, the first trick, and this one is so big that pretty much all the other tricks are based on this one, is to have empathy. Now, you probably know this, but empathy is the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather their own. And this one is huge. I actually see a lot of teachers who lack empathy have a lot of problems in their classroom. Not only are their students checked out, but their students kind of just don't want to participate in anything because they feel like their teacher doesn't understand them. You might actually be one of those teachers who says something like,
"Well, my teacher was this way with me and I turned out okay,"
and then feel like you can go ahead and do that to your students. And I actually talked about this in a previous video where we take our educational experiences from when we were growing up and we kind of pay it forward in a bad way. So maybe you're one of those teachers that thinks, well, my teacher was really mean and strict, but I turned out okay. Even though I suffered in their class, I turned out okay. And so therefore you justify being just like that in your teaching. But here's the thing. If you think it's okay to pay forward pain and suffering just because you turned out okay, you didn't turn out okay. This is the first step in having a positive classroom culture, is understanding where your students are coming from. Understanding actually that you went through that too, and had someone been understanding with you, if someone had sympathy for you, things would have been easier for you. If you have students that are suffering from something happening at home, like a divorce, or maybe their parents lost their job or death of the family, and you are really cold and unwilling to budge on maybe like your deadlines or the assignments that you're giving them, they're going to check out. You are not going to get buy-in from that student, and you're definitely not going to get any kind of engagement from them. In fact, they might even start to act out and misbehave in your class. Some teachers call having empathy enabling their students. They think, if I feel bad for the student for what's going on in their lives, or if I make any kind of accommodations for them, then I'm enabling them. Then they're going to take advantage of it and abuse the system. But that's not really what's going to happen. Students need to feel like you understand them. They need to feel like you're on their side and that you understand what they're going through, because you kind of should know what they're going through. You too were a child, you too were a student, and you know what it's like to try to learn and just be in an environment that is sometimes inhospitable, in an environment that sometimes is unforgiving. So it could be something as simple as extending a deadline if you know that all the students from band got home late due to a competition. They didn't get home until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, or even if it's like students from the football team, they got home late because the game ran into overtime. You know they didn't get home until 11. You know that they probably didn't have time to do your homework. Maybe giving them a 1-day extension would actually get them to do the assignment, rather than you giving them all missing or all zeros and having them resent you for that. Or if a student has divorced parents and one week they live with one parent and the other week they live with the other parent, and they're basically being shuffled back and forth, if they sometimes forget their textbook or their tablet or some kind of school supply, maybe having some understanding in terms of why they couldn't turn in that assignment, it would just go so far in terms of getting them to actually want to do well for you. I even like to think about where the students are mentally when I think about the pacing of my assignments. For example, if we are coming back from a break, spring break, winter break, anything like that, I don't come and hit them hard with a really tough concept right away. I don't give them some really long nonfiction reading assignment where they're going to have to like annotate and answer questions, because I know that they're not going to have the mental bandwidth for them. Probably a lot of them forgot how to go to bed on time and wake up early, and they're just going to be tired. They're not going to want to do anything that takes a lot of mental energy or that's too mentally taxing. So I know this, and I plan my activities accordingly so that I can ease them into that stuff. But if you just decide that you're going to come in and teach them a brand new topic that's really, really difficult, Good luck with that. And are they going to abuse the system? Some of them might, sometimes, but are you going to ruin it for everyone else just because you have a couple of students who just don't want to do anything anyway? So what's great about empathy, you don't have to be that fun, extroverted, bubbly teacher who has the Pinterest-worthy classroom or who smiles all the time on Instagram and has this like perfect bulletin board. You don't have to be that way and still get buy-in in a positive classroom culture. Just having empathy for the students, they feel it and they know it because they've had teachers who didn't have empathy and were really strict and not understanding at all, and they know what that feels like and they know how scary that can actually be. So if you are that teacher who is empathetic to them, who understands, still sets boundaries, of course, you know, if a student's going to try to abuse it, you can say, I've given you plenty of instances, I've given you plenty of time to do this. That's one thing. But if you can be empathetic and you can understand where they're coming from, then they're going to trust you. And when they trust you, then you're going to get the buy-in. And when you get the buy-in, that's when you get the engagement. So if you're getting value from this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that you won't miss out on any future videos. So going along with empathy is considering group chemistry. And this one, I don't know why I haven't talked about this yet. I actually think I could make a whole video on this, but group chemistry is basically being really, really intentional when it comes to your seating charts. So what I do in the beginning of the year is I do randomly put them according to alphabet so that I can learn their names. But then I also start to make some observations about the type of student that they are, their personality. Are they a little more introverted? Who do they try to talk to across the room? Or do they actually work with their group members? Are they just sitting there playing games on their iPad? Things like that. And then about 2 or 3 months into the first quarter, I will send out a survey where I ask them, where do they want to sit? Do they like to sit in the front? Do they like to sit in the back? Are they more introverted, extroverted? Who do they want to sit with? Who should they not work with? Things like that. And then I will meticulously arrange them based on that. If you've ever had to help someone plan a wedding, it's like trying to plan out the seating chart for the reception. It's really intricate. So the point of doing this is to have them sit with people with whom they get along, and also having them sit with the type of people that they would work best with. So I have a group of introverts and it looks like they're not working, but actually what they do is they work by themselves, but they check in with each other doing group work just to see, is this what you got? Discuss if they got something different from them, but they don't feel the need to have to talk to someone because it just doesn't feel good to them. I mean, if you're an introverted teacher, you know what I mean. And also they don't have someone who's a little more gregarious sitting there trying to elicit answers from them because that's really uncomfortable and tiring for them. And then you have the students who do like to talk, who do want to be in a more talkative group. They get to sit together, and if they do sit with someone who they know that they can work with, I've found that yes, they can be chatty and they can be talkative, but more importantly, they work hard. They work together because they know that they have to earn that spot by actually paying attention and participating and staying on task. It has worked for me beautifully year after year. The years where I just randomly mix kids, some of the groups are so painful because, you know, over here you have a group where everyone is getting along, and right next to it you have a group where there's just no chemistry. No one wants to talk to each other. No one wants to work together, and they're stuck together. And if you have some empathy for them, you understand this. It's like when you're in a professional development or in a staff meeting, you probably want to sit by someone with whom you feel comfortable, right? You don't want to sit next to necessarily someone who maybe you don't really know or you've never talked to, who maybe makes you uncomfortable. You just feel more at ease and you can get more done if you're sitting with kind of like your homies or people in your department. So just imagine that it's like that with your students. They really will get more done. They surprisingly can stay focused if they're sitting with people that they get along with. And I have found that the classroom culture is just amazing because of that. Anytime someone just drops into my room unannounced, especially, they are just kind of in awe of how well the groups work together. And you would never imagine that they chose who they want to sit by. And you, as maybe a more introverted teacher, you could definitely understand and appreciate that they get to sit with people with whom they get along with, but also you don't have to do a whole lot to get them engaged because they are engaging themselves and each other. Now, to go along with that, now you've got empathy, you've got the group chemistry, now you want to get them talking to each other. And so this is important because if students are just listening to you, number one, it can be uncomfortable if you're more introverted, but also they are going to check out. I've mentioned before in previous videos how students can only hold their attention for so long before they need time to talk. And so if you're talking too much, you're not being an engaging teacher. Also, it's really tiring to be the one talking all the time. So if you structure your assignments that give them lots of time to talk to each other, as well as also do independent work, then you're going to get more engagement and it's going to definitely be a more positive classroom culture. Now, you may have some difficult students who have a really hard time staying on task, and when it's time to talk, they might yell across the room to their friends. I'm going to propose this and you might not necessarily like it, but maybe they just need to sit closer to that friend so they don't have to yell. And maybe sometimes they're off task. I have had groups where I put these people together and yes, they can get off task, but I just kind of station myself over there more. It keeps them on task. And yes, sometimes they get off task when I walk away, but then I come back and I don't get mad about it. But at least they're only next to each other and they're being off task with just them, rather than yelling across the room and making it difficult for everybody else to concentrate and learn. So building in time for them to actually talk, be messy with the learning with each other, and try to figure things out, that's definitely going to get more engagement and more buy-in from your students without you having to do so much work, especially again, if you're a more introverted or serious teacher. And finally, and this is the hardest one actually, trying to not take everything so personally and trying to find a way to make school fun for you. Now, I get it. Sometimes we just have students that we don't have chemistry with them. Like they kind of rub us the wrong way. So we may perceive things that they say to us as more of an affront. We might take it personally or see it as offensive, when really they're just being a kid. Now, I get it. I've had students who have said things that are kind of rude and I kind of was like, where I felt that reaction in me, I felt that trigger, and I just had to remember that they're a kid. I just had to remember that I don't have to stoop down to their level and react back with that. I don't have to sit there and, snap and actually feed into what they're trying to accomplish. Sometimes they do just want to get you mad. And are you going to let them win by becoming angry about that? And it doesn't mean that I just let it go, but I'm just very matter of fact about it. And we have a discussion. I'll pull them aside and we'll have a discussion, but I don't take it seriously and I don't take it personally, because then they win. When they see you do that several times, it's not as fun for them anymore to do that. Also, if you try to make the class period or the class day, if you're an elementary school teacher, if you just try to make it fun for you, for your brand of fun, whatever that means, then the students still feed off that energy. So even if you're geeking out about something that is a little more obscure, maybe you're really into like cats, or maybe you're really into Harry Potter, or whatever it is that really lights you up, bring that personality into your classroom and let the students see you get excited, even in your own, maybe more quiet way. When they see that you're passionate about something, that's going to get them to be a little more curious about you. That's going to get them to maybe be more willing to share with you that they have something that's a little more obscure. I have a student who loves to talk about his Dragon Ball Z figurines. He has a bunch of them, and none of the other students in the class are really into that, but he's really passionate and he doesn't want to feel like he's going to be ridiculed, so he doesn't talk about them. But he saw that I have a Dragon Ball Z poster on my wall, and so he likes to come up and talk to me about it or show me pictures of his figurines. And I also have another student who's really into Pokemon cards, and he loves to show me his more rare Pokemon cards, and because he knows that I like to watch anime. So it's one of those things that if you can make it fun in the classroom for you, then the students are going to feed off of that energy. And again, you don't have to be super bubbly or super extroverted to have fun, but it just makes it so that it feels a little more lighthearted for them, and it just feels like it's a place where they feel safe. Now, here's the thing though that I have to warn you about. If you successfully implement these 4 things, especially the empathy part, you're going to find yourself with a lot of students who like you in your classroom and are going to stick around and linger. So what this means is they're going to stay after class and they're going to want to talk to you. They're going to come during nutrition break and they're going to want to talk to you and hang out with you. They're going to come during lunch and they're going to want to hang out with you. And a lot of times that's like our time to go to the bathroom or just have some peace and quiet. So it's kind kind of an unintended drawback or consequence when your room is just so inviting and it's such a safe place for the students and they get to know your real personality. Even if you were a more quiet or serious teacher, you're going to find that you're going to get those students who just naturally want to be around you more when they get to see that part of your personality. It's up to you whether that's actually a positive or a negative. I'm just warning you that this is something that could happen. So what if you have accomplished this, but you still just want to make your actual lessons more fun and engaging so that students kind of stay awake during it? So be sure to click on this video next to get those tips and tricks on how to have the most engaging lessons.